Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's your Saturday going?
Yeah, it's going good. I got up this morning to go get a haircut. I forgot I had one at 10 and I didn't really know how this works. So I was like, my wife is going to see the Nutcracker with our son. So I went last year and, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. So I know I told you a while ago, but I drive truck and I got weird hours.
No problem. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Yeah, I've been watching some of your podcasts. You interviewed Shane Cashman, Libby Emmons.
Yeah, I got to meet him when I went up to AmFest, which is going on right now. I haven't
Yeah,
been able to make it back the last 2 years because of finances, but yeah, it was pretty cool talking to them. I'd love to have Shane back on, but he's so busy now. His stuff is blowing up.
yeah, he's on Timcast, right? A
That and
lot.
Inverted World, he does too.
Yeah. Um, I watched. Oh, was it? I think it was. But yeah, Buck Angel. I was looking back at some of your podcasts. I was like, yeah, some interesting stuff. That Amfast is. What is it? Amfast. It's just fast. It's just down the street from me right now.
Yeah, up in Phoenix. That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know. Turning Point is down the street from me, like 4 or 5 miles.
hmm
I was down there after Charlie Kirk died and seen the memorial, and they were giving out hats.
Yeah, I didn't go to the candlelight, but I went when they had the memorial at the stadium. I went up there with a buddy of mine. I got to
Oh,
see
you
all.
went to that?
Yeah, I didn't get into the main stadium. We got pushed over to the smaller one next door.
Okay.
That was still pretty cool.
Yeah, crazy, crazy times.
Yeah, it's crazy. Still kind of blows my mind that it happened. I never, even at Amfest, I don't think I ever met Charlie, but I got to listen to him speak while I was there. So, it's still crazy to think that he's gone.
Yeah, I didn't think. He just lived. I think he lived here in Scottsdale, which is, everything in Phoenix is kind of close by. And I
hmm
used to drive by that Turning Point quite a bit. It's where I work at. There's a place that I deliver, and I would always go over there. And when that happened, I was like, damn. But
Yeah, major
I don't
gut
know. I never
punch.
thought. What's that?
I said, yeah, I mean, it was a major gut punch to a lot of people.
It was, and to see it all unfold on TV. I mean, that's what's crazy with the internet. I looked up one morning, and it's damn near a snuff film if you think about it. I mean, all the stuff that you see online, I'll see like 5 deaths before noon.
hmm
That one was pretty graphic.
Yeah, when the fall away, I saw the fall away first, and then once you saw the zoomed in, everybody kind of knew what happened.
Yeah, the first one I saw, it didn't seem like they made it a big deal. Someone just sent me a text and said Charlie Kirk got shot in Utah. I heard a cap and I seen him fall. I didn't see nothing else. And then I kept hearing about it because I was in my truck, so I stopped and looked, and then I saw another footage. And I was like, "Oh, I knew." You just knew once you seen that other footage. You're like, "Oh,
hmm
yeah."
Yeah.
So
So, while you're driving truck, have you seen any high strangeness out and about?
you know, um, I have, and I never, I never thought about in this kind of world. Live these kind of podcasts and stuff like that, cryptids and stuff like that. I never gave it much thought. I never believed in it until, or at least what the claims people make. I don't know what they're seeing, but there's a weird stuff on the road. So I've been driving truck for about 15 years, and about five of it was over the road. And a lot of the stuff that I see, you know, I haven't seen any Bigfoots or anything like that, but near reservations, I have been to Area 51 before, and that was strange. I delivered some stuff there, and your phone shuts off. You can't. There's no kind of like there's no service. The GPS doesn't really work that well, and they'll tell you to call when you're like an hour away and where to meet up at. And that was kind of weird. But near reservations, so I was coming from Amarillo down in through New Mexico before you get to Tumacory. I don't know if you've been. Have you been through there? There, New Mexico's wide open. It's
I've
just
been through New Mexico, but I think it's the lower half because I've been going through from Arizona to Texas. I have family in
yeah,
Texas, so I've made that trip before. I haven't seen anything on the road that I can
yeah.
remember.
Yeah, well, there's the lower half where you go through Lordsburg and all that, and you probably
Hmm.
went into El Paso.
Yeah.
I went up along the 40, you go past Flagstaff, and so it was my first time over the road, and I was with another driver. We were doing teams. We were coming back from Florida, and if you didn't do it through New Mexico and those reservations, there is no cities in between anywhere. I mean, you're in the middle of the country. You could tell if there's like a house with lights on or anything. Plus, I know the maps and I know the area. So this was east of Tumacory because that's about the town I remember that I had to stop at. Both of us couldn't get any sleep because when you're driving teams, the truck, you're sitting in the back trying to sleep. You're supposed to, one driver drives, the other one sleeps. You just can't do it all the time. It just moves all the time. You're both exhausted. And I found out that wasn't for me. So we both pulled over. We're like, I'm exhausted. Let's just pull over and sleep. We didn't know the road that well then, so we're like, we found an off ramp. There was nothing. There was no town. We fueled up in Amarillo, and when we got here, we were like, "Where's the next city?" And it was still like 50 miles away, which was like Tumacory. So we just parked. We went to sleep. Next thing you know, bam, bam, there's someone knocking on the door. Freaked me the hell out because there's no stores. There's no neighborhoods. There's not even a reservation where like the people live. This is in the middle of nowhere. There's no lights on the overpass. I was tripping. I was like, oh, who the hell's knocking? And then I was like, oh, maybe it's a DHS or something, trooper. I looked out. It was an Indian dude. He was uh, he was right at my driver's window. We were like, what does he want? He was looking in the window saying something. I cracked the window down and he was just talking really slurred. And it was like, I need a ride or something. I need a ride. I need a ride to my friend's house. And I go, where the hell did you come from? And he just kept mumbling. And I was like, all right. The guy I was driving with, he was a big, big, heavy set dude. And he was kind of crazy. And he was mad. And he was like, what the fuck is he? Can I cuss? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind. Go for it.
And he was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Because it freaked me out too. Where did he come from? There was no bridge to come from under. There was no house. Who dropped him off there and how did he get out there? There was no town within, 100 miles in any direction, really. I don't know. He's just walking, and I've been through there in the day. There's no houses. There's no really towns nearby. So he just got out the window and told, yeah, get the fuck out of here. Get away from our truck. And he just still stayed there talking. He grabbed like a tire checker. It was like a wooden, like little baseball bat that you hit the tires with. Because we were both just like, why don't this guy leave our truck? We closed the windows and there was like a drape that you pull around your window so you could sleep. I don't know if
Hmm.
you.
He froze a second. Oh, I think you're
Can you
back.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
You froze a second.
Yeah. So, anyways, he just stayed there at our door. Really weird. Didn't know what was going on. We told him to get the hell out of here. We're like, you know what? Let's just leave. I just thought it was a weird. I had a weird feeling. I was like, let's go find a truck stop. Let's just keep going. And he took off running. Right. It was the
Hmm.
weirdest thing because he was so like hammered. It felt like he was just couldn't. He was slurring his words. So I started to drive, and he took off running just so fast. It was just weird. And he started smiling as he ran off. And it always stayed with me because where did he go? When we drove, we got back on the freeway. We're on a frontage road, and he just kind of like disappeared. Maybe he went off into the field, and we just couldn't see him because it was dark. But that was a weird thing that I saw, and I always remembered it because I don't know where he came. And then there's other times after that. that I've driven through reservations because I live in Arizona too, and I still drive the state of Arizona. Not too much at night, but when I was over the road, I've seen weird stuff by Four Corners. Um, People walking in the middle of nowhere, just like that time, and then kind of like disappear or look at me and their face, and I started chalking it up to maybe I need to sleep. Like I see some weird faces, and I would drive off, and they give me the creeps, and you know, I don't know what I'm seeing out there. I've been up through Skinwalker Ranch too. There's like weird stuff driving up there through Utah. But the weirdest things I've seen were in Arizona, and it was people um, that I couldn't explain. Um, I've also seen like lots of orbs driving through Texas, and I don't know if they've explained those yet. I haven't looked into them too much. But you're driving in the middle of nowhere. There's no towns. There's no light, and you'll just see these glowing orbs. So definitely, you probably would get this from other truck drivers too that have been on the road long enough. You see some weird stuff out there. I I, I looked up an animal that I saw once, and the best explanation was a coyote with mange, and it looked like the thing that I saw. But it made me stop. Once you see something that you don't feel is like of this earth, it really hits you. I never believed in anything like that. I didn't even look into podcasts about cryptids or anything. But after I saw that first dog, I had to pull over. It bothered me so much. And then just like that time, I saw that on that reservation. And then I started looking into skinwalkers and different stories that other people have had. And, some of their explanations were stuff just like that. I thought, all of them you would see like monsters or stuff. But I'm telling you, I've seen faces where they like disappeared on me. And I would be like, I need to sleep maybe. I don't know. Truckers have rules, you just can't drive like you used to be able to do 20 hours or whatever and stuff. You have to drive 11 hours stop. So that that's pretty much. And I told you that before we started this. I was like, I don't know how good of conversationalist I'll be because that's about where it goes. Just seeing stuff like that over the road, but mostly on reservations.
Okay. Yeah, because that's something that kind of has fascinated me for a long time, the idea of cryptids. Last few years, the conversation of Dogman have popped up, which are very fascinating creatures, just like Bigfoot.
Yeah, yeah. Um, uh, and I wanted to ask you about that. I don't think that these people are lying. When I first heard about Dogman, I thought that's crazy. But there's so many people, and it's just like with Bigfoots and stuff. When I was up in Oregon, there was a tour industry around it. I was up in Klamath Falls, and this bus pulled into a parking lot. So it was Weed. It was Weed, California, and they had like a Bigfoot sighting tour bus or something like that. And I talked to people. They believed it. I've met people that have seen Dogman before, and something gets me. Do you think they manifest this stuff because they want to believe, or they've seen something weird so much that they see stuff? Because I've heard that around Skinwalker Ranch. Other truck drivers have told me driving up. I'm trying to remember what highway that is, but I know you know about it. It's in
Hmm.
Utah. I met more than one or two
I
people that have seen weird stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of Skinwalker Ranch. But no, I do think that could play an element in things, not just like cryptids, but like haunted houses. If you go there knowing it's haunted or going looking for something, that any noise or anything that stands out of place, you could chalk up to be like, oh, it was Bigfoot. I saw him, I heard him. But you really don't know. But also, I think some of them can be just like a big umbrella term. There could be a lot of different things that are called Bigfoots. They're called Dogmen. Like some of the podcasts I listen to say like Dogmen are like biological, and then you have like the magical side. Those will be like the more like traditional werewolf. Somebody got cursed, somebody made a deal, kind of a thing.
Well, what's your whole take on the werewolf thing? Because what's it called lycanthrophobia? I forgot. Like lycanthropes? What do they call them?
Yeah, something like that, like Anthropy, something like that. I have a hard time saying it. Yeah, like it goes back to like a Greek king that fed one of his kids to Zeus, and he changed him into like a dog. There's a lot of stories of dog-headed people out there. Some people dive into the idea that maybe the hybrids, government experiments that broke loose, or they're, on training missions that they break loose or whatever. So,
Oh, go ahead. No,
I
no.
was gonna say
I
also, what's her face? She's very big in the field. I'm spacing her name. Godfrey, Linda Godfrey. She coined the term upright Canaan. Maybe something could have evolved naturally, more of an upright posture somehow.
I think I've heard her on Coast to Coast.
Yeah, she was very big in the field. I think she passed a few years back.
The upright one. What you said about the government experiments too. What is I'm trying to think. I've even heard Alex Jones talking about that machine they have. They said it opened up portals. It was a couple years
Oh
ago. That thing
yeah,
that they.
that's something Shane mentioned on the video. He was talking to a witch. They said they witnessed like a coven of witches doing a ritual, and a dog, some kind of like dog-like creature came out. But yeah, that's something else people will say. With like CERN, the Hadron Colliders.
CERN. Yes, CERN. That's what I was talking
Um,
about.
they have portals through time, different dimensions that could play a role. Um, Same with like Bigfoot, could they be coming in and out of all
You,
reality?
do you think they are interdimensional beings? Then, like maybe.
I I wouldn't say all, but some could be, because one of the origin stories they say could be biblical, like the Nephilim
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the angel, the Watchers came down and mated with men and beasts, they could have created all kinds of hybrids. Um, and maybe they could hold certain, properties like being able to open portals in and out. I think certain ones could maybe do be natural, which would explain a lot of like the creatures or like dinosaurs, things out of time.
Yeah.
Maybe they walked in and they were here briefly and walked back out. Um, But then there's the
Yeah.
whole like Fae argument. Maybe it's a mask. They pretend to be Bigfoot to kind of hide what they are. That I've heard that with the orbs too. They could be spirits, angels, or Fae like creatures.
Well, I've seen the orbs, and I saw them at a young age because we used to
Mhm.
drive to Texas from California when I lived in Stockton, where I was raised. We would go there and drive to Texas, and this was in the '80s and '90s, right? And we'd see them balls of like light. I didn't know how to explain them. My dad said some kind of weather thing or whatever. He didn't know either, but yeah, and up until 7, 8 years ago, when I'd go through Texas, once in a while I'd still experience them. Um, but I listen to Coast now. I listen to Tinfoil Hat. I've listened to all these podcasts. One thing, and I don't know if I've heard anybody else say it. Do you ever think that maybe the government does some things? Maybe they project stuff to see how people will react to it and see if stories get back to them. I thought that too. Like, why wouldn't they? Like, I thought that with Mothman. I thought that with Bigfoots. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, do something like that, Project Bluebeam type thing, and then see what's reported back just to see, maybe it's their way of screwing with people, or I don't know why they would do it, but is that crazy or, why
No,
wouldn't they do
if you look into the history of like messed up things the government has done, I could see that falling under maybe some kind of like MK Ultra-esque things, just to see how people would react. I have heard that with like alien abductions, that
Yeah.
when they do like hypnosis, it feels more human in masks than like extraterrestrials. So maybe they could play into that, to hide nefarious things they're doing. Just playing, oh, pretending to be an abduction scenario.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What do you think though about living in Arizona? Why there's so much phenomena? in this state, like Fire in the Sky. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but that was up in Apache by Sholo National Forest. That's like the
Yeah,
most famous abduction.
yeah. It's pretty famous in the state. Yeah, was it Travis Walton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And
sorry, I brain fart. What was it? What was your question? Why is it so strange?
yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think the phenomenon is? It a Southwest thing, Arizona? Because you've seen the Phoenix Lights. There
Hmm.
was lots of stories of abductions and stuff like that. In Arizona, there's a lot of strange things. The Indian reservations. There's a lot of stuff about skinwalkers. What is it with the Southwest? Do you think? I know Arizona. There's a lot of cryptid phenomena and stuff like that.
I think it could be lots of different things, you know. All the natives here being for so long, they could have, you know, they have their holy sites. Was it Mount Graham where they have the big telescope? It's a huge
Hmm.
sacred mountain that a lot of things, you know, strange things happen, like lights in the skies. Um, but I think that's a bit hard to narrow it down to just one answer. I think if you look into history, it could be a bunch of different things. Um, it could just be a good habitat. Like we have was it the Mongolian ram monster?
Mongol monster. Yeah,
I
the
always have
Mongol
trouble
Yan.
pronouncing it. It could just be a good habitat up in those mountains to rest in. I know Sedona's a big kind of high strange portal area. Maybe it has
Vortex.
some,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it has something to do with the Earth itself, you know, collecting energy and somehow using that for natural portals. Um, I have heard like Lake Havasu is a major occult haven, so I think there could be
Really?
something with that. Yeah, like have you heard of the Confessional podcast?
No, I'd like to look into that. Havasu, really?
Yeah, I'll send you a few. There's a guy Nathan, forget his last name, says that he's part of like, you know, dark bloodlines. People have made deals in his family. That under the London Bridge over there that you can access like deep underground to go into like some throne room of some dark entity.
I mean, yeah, I drive through there. I go up there to work too. There's a Home Depot and a few other places I go to. Um, yeah, because I think that's all man-made. That canal, like it's right there where the London Bridge
Some of
is.
it's on the Colorado, but some of it's man-made because they do a lot of energy up there too. That could play a role in feeding whatever could be there naturally, or you know like occult stuff. You have the dam, you have all that running water that could create energy.
What about the military too? I mean, there's a lot of Air Force bases in Arizona. Also, I see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some DUMBs, deep underground military base. Was it deep underground? Yeah, military base DUMBs. You know, there's a whole thing with Dulce in New Mexico. Mountain Ground's weird. We have was it the Bradshaw Ranch is another strange one up north by Sedona. I
Where's
think,
that? Oh yeah,
yeah, I think the government owns that one and they won't let you near it.
Bradshaw.
Yeah, Bradshaw Ranch.
I'm gonna look that up. What about the Grand Canyon? There's parts of it you can't even go into.
Yeah,
There's like a
that's super weird too, why you can't go in there. One theory I have, coming from a biblical perspective, is that I heard a story. This is what they were saying to explain it was in the Bible, there's a story. I forget his name, but he's in Egypt. God tells him there's going to be like 7 years of like plentiful harvest, followed by
yeah.
7 years of famine. And it was their job to help the world survive those 7 years. So they were saying, what if he actually went around the world and created um, stockpiles of food for everybody, and maybe the Grand Canyon would have just been a good place to hide food, which would explain the Egyptian how artifacts and hieroglyphs and stuff. So I thought that was an interesting explanation.
That is weird too, because I've heard. Well, I think it's a known thing about the hieroglyphs that they found. I've heard about Nephilim that they found bones in some of those caves
Hmm.
that they want to keep people out. I do know that they'll have a plane. I mean, if there's parts that you try to go into via the Colorado River or over it, they'll escort you out of there.
Mm.
Uh, So, yeah, I don't know. I know when I went to Area 51, and it was outside of it, and I didn't see the base. I went far. I went to a gate, and they had like four people meet me right there. Stop. They had a forklift on hand, took some stuff off, and just told me to keep moving. That was that was kind of strange. And I couldn't. I had no phone signal. It wasn't for I don't know about 20 minutes or so until I got past there, and then my phone signal came back. But yeah, they were serious too. They did not like. I went right to the gate. I had to turn around and leave, and they escorted me down the road.
Yeah, I meant to circle back to that. So you actually delivered stuff to what is called like Groom Lake Area 51?
Yeah, it doesn't say that on the paperwork. Of course, you know that's where it is. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think there's signs too that you kind of see around there. So they told me to call. I was still in there. Where was I? I'm somewhere in Nevada. I think I was in Vegas. Call, tell them how far out I am. Then they told me that my GPS probably was going to lose service. And when I got to whatever highway that was, this was so long ago. This was, oh, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like
Hmm.
that. Um, but I had no phone service, and they told me that would happen. And then they told me what markers to kind of look for. And there was a gate and a road, but they said there'll be people out there. So they had like a van, a couple trucks, and they had like a small forklift. They call it Moffat drivers. So it takes stuff off and put it on another flatbed, and they took that through the gate. I brought them steel. It was just like a bunch of steel beams and some lumber, and it was like the only gate in the middle of nowhere with a couple trucks and cars too. So the cars escorted me. There was a van, the truck. They took the stuff off, and it was tarped. I had to sit there and tarp it, and they sit there and watched me. I tarp it, and no one helped me. They're just looking at me. I put it on my truck, and they're like, "All right, you ready?" I was like, "Yeah." And they escorted me all the way down the road, and then they told me which way to keep going. Asked where I was going to, and I was going back to Vegas. And they said you should get service about 20 miles past this way, and that was it. But yeah, they didn't want me there. It seemed like
Yeah, I would
the
imagine
phone.
not for too long.
Oh yeah, I mean even the GPS, it was weird. It was a signal that I'd never seen. It just like it was totally blocked, and that was my experience with that. Um, but I told everybody about it. I was like, yeah, I went to Area 51. It was pretty wild how they wanted me to call ahead of time and just get the hell out of there. But I heard you. I think I talked to you like a month ago or something. You said something about some cryptids up near the Four Corners, which were like reptiles. You said there was people that experienced something up there,
Yeah,
like dinosaur type creatures.
yeah, that's what I was talking about, like creatures out of time. Natural portals could explain why people see, pterodactyls, small raptor-looking things, or like mini T-Rexes. Um, but some of those things have been reported up there by the Four Corners, on
Pterodactyl.
the
Yeah, the
reservation side of things.
well, I mean, I've heard of Thunderbirds, and
Hmm.
you've heard about the one of Tombstone. There was that pterodactyl of Tombstone. There's like the old newspaper clipping where those
Yeah,
guys.
I think I've seen those. Um,
I don't know. It's
th-
pretty wild.
mhm. But yeah, circling back, I was just asking because that sounds like a pretty cool, interesting story. But me and my buddy, we want to go up to Rachel, Nevada, which is pretty close by, and try and see some strangers ourselves.
Yeah, I've heard too because I met other truck drivers. If like, oh, that's no big deal. I've been there before and had to deliver stuff, but they're serious. Like if you try to record anything and they see you recording, because I this guy told me he recorded some drones or something like that, and they pulled up to him and they stopped him quick. He was out of his truck. He said there was
Mhm.
like some weird drones or something like that, and they'll escort you out. Like if you do have a delivery at Area 51, and I don't know how many people went directly straight into the base itself, or they met me at a far corner, and that was strange. But I was going to ask you about cryptids, and I know you talk to a lot of people. Why is it that every state has their own? It seems like if you look up like Kentucky, they have elves, I think it is. Here we have the Magoyan monster because there's a Magoyan rim in Payson,
Hmm.
and that would be an area because if you've been to the Grand Canyon, it's all forest supposedly. Because when I went to Washington, I used to never think about Bigfoot, and I was like, oh, these forests are so vast and huge. I was like, something could hide there. I've heard there's people that haven't even been all the way through it, so I don't know. Every state though, it seems like they have. There's elves, there's fairies in North Carolina, I think it is, and I was like, do you know anything about that? It's like every state has their own unique. California's Bigfoot, so is Washington. We had the Magoyan, and I forgot what's up. There's a Tasmanian devil, I think, or a New Jersey devil up in New
Hmm.
Jersey. So I don't know. You know anything about it in that?
Um, well, I don't know if there's one answer. I think most could just be location. It's a good location for people for the cryptids to live in. Others, I think it's just the area, like the was it the Appalachia Mountains? Um, that's like could be tied to like native curses, native lands. You don't know what people, but what kind of deity over here. So if
Yeah,
they're masquerading as certain things, it could explain, if you pray to a dark entity, you're opening up that area. Um, but as for some of like the one-offs, I don't know because they're so weird. You hear, them pop up for a little bit and then never again. You brought up Kentucky. I think you're talking about was it the like the goblins that attacked the farm?
yeah,
I think that was the
yeah. The
story.
goblin. Yeah,
Some people say they could have been like cave dwelling entities that just for whatever reason popped up.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of caves over there in those mountains. You brought up Mothman. One theory I heard was that maybe the TNT plant could have been at a underground base, and they could have been messing with things like was it the Montauk Project that Stranger Things is based off of?
yeah.
They could have been doing something like that, opening up portals. So I don't know. I think it's just the history of the state, who came in, who started messing with what, and the region. Like the Pacific Northwest is just a good place. Um, they probably don't have to move around much, but there's a lot of stories from Ohio. Maybe people see them crossing roads because they migrate or mating or something. Coming down from Canada or going back up for seasonal things.
Yeah. I still to this day, I don't know what to think. Sometimes I think there is some supernatural stuff out there that we don't know. But then, I think the government, like, what is their role in some of these things? Just to see how people react. I don't know. Like, they do it to people. Like, have you read that book, Chaos, about the Manson murders and stuff like that, and the whole
I
MK
haven't
Ultra?
read it, but I have heard of it. I think Shane Cashman brought it up on one of his episodes talking about it.
Oh, well, I met Charles Manson in 1997. I was at Pelican Bay, and he was brought through there from the Shoe and Corker and stuff. And the way he talked is, yeah, that well, he talked kind of crazy anyways, but he was a smart dude. But I met someone else too before that was, I guess, part of the Manson family, and he said they have no recollection of it. That they were given acid, and they were told to do these things, and that Charles Manson wasn't even that big part of it. They just used him as like a figurehead or whatever to get all this stuff. And I just, it always comes back to me and like, what would the government do? Why would they do it? People say, I don't know, but to see how people react, they're taking notes. I just, it goes back and forth. I've met people that didn't remember anything they did, and they'll blame it on MK Ultra or the government or whatever. Obviously, some people will lie about that stuff, but that whole thing, I just started reading that Chaos book, and then I was like, I met him for a brief moment. He was in a holding cell in the shoe and talking to him, and he was going on about God, and it's just a whole weird story. So I listened, I'm like, I found your podcast after you told me about it. I just started listening to that. Then it leads me on to people you've had on there. I started listening to their stuff, and I don't really know what to think of all this, Like, do these people manifest this stuff? The government is so crooked. Like this whole thing with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and stuff now. Like, I'm at a point I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, I think if anybody says they do, they're lying. I think it's the world's a lot stranger than we give it credit for. But yeah, I went past the government just to see, if you give these people a bunch of drugs, what happens. But also with like shrooms and like mushrooms and probably by extension LSD, oh, you could probably make contact with some kind of entity or open yourself up to, dark influences, possession.
Well, that is real. I do believe in the cult, and that there are people that believe that and maybe they can open up portals. There's a lot of evil shit in this world. I do.
Hmm.
I believe in God. I do believe you have to believe in the devil. You believe in God. I believe there's people that do, and maybe they work with dark magic. I do believe in that stuff, and that's why I don't know if some of this cryptid stuff comes from that, or if you believe it so much you actually will see it. But that doesn't explain it for me. I never believed in any of it, and when I've seen a few of those things, your gut tells you. I had a feeling like there was something supernatural. You hear about Smiling Man, people see him in public and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That night that I saw that guy on that reservation, something told me that was unworldly. It was just the way he acted and the whole event. But
Yeah, I meant to
uh,
say, that kind of, I was gonna say that reminds me of a lot of like the Black Eyed Kids stories. And they ask people to give me a ride or let me in to use the phone, and it's just very eerie and creepy.
mm,
They seem very normal, but then once you see the eyes, and they're just all pitch black. And once you stand your ground, eventually they just walk away. They
and
they
that's what
act
it
like
was.
they're in distress, but then they just walk away.
Yeah, that's what he did. He walked away and then he ran full speed. Weird,
Yeah,
but
that could easily have been just people trying to set you guys up, but the supernatural makes me think of like Black Eyed Kids kind of things.
he could have been trying to set us up. I didn't see
Yeah,
a
I
call.
think
I don't
people
know,
are just as scary as some of the supernatural stuff out there.
especially when you don't expect it in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
No, I don't know exactly. I know your podcast. You talk about different cultures and stuff. There's evil people. When I was in prison, there was a guy that was a black dude that was satanic, and he killed his cellie. And his cellie, and you can look it up. His name was Lloyd Avery II. He was on the movie Boys in the Hood, and he was also in Poetic Justice. He was an actor,
Hmm.
and his cellie's name was Kevin Roby. And the guy that got murdered, he was just becoming a Christian. He got in you remember that movie Boys in the Hood?
Vaguely, I think it's been a few years since I've seen it.
Well, he played like a killer in it. And what happened was he was a Hollywood kid, but he wanted to become a gangbanger. He was in these movies and it got to his head, so he started hanging out with gangbangers. He actually joined a gang and killed someone. He got life. They became a Christian. Well, they moved him in with the most satanic dude that was in prison, this dude Kevin Roby. They ended up getting in a fight. He murdered him. And I do remember his cell. He had a pentagram in his cell, and he was in there for a while by himself because no one would sell up with him because he was weird. And I don't know why they set this guy in there, but he used soap and wax, and he had a big giant pentagram. As soon as you looked inside of his cell, and people, I didn't ever really talk to him anyways because prison is kind of segregated anyways. But he did live down the tier, and I just remember him talking about that and stuff. He was a weird dude, but I do remember looking in that cell. He murdered that guy Lloyd Avery, and then he tried to he choked him out. He choked him to death, and then he tried to gouge his eyes out. put him in that pentagram, did a whole bunch of weird stuff. For 5 days, he kept them in. You can look this story up too. It's on the,
It
you can
sounds
find it on the
crazy.
internet. He kept them in the cell for 5 days because they're supposed to do guard checks in prison. You know, they come by twice a day to see if you're alive.
Hmm.
He did the old. Uh, I think he had him on the bottom bunk with the string tied, so he was on the top bunk. So when they would come and check, all he would do was like pull the string up, and the guy's arm would move. They'd be like, because they don't really care. They just come
Hmm.
by and look, and if you move or look at them, they're like they just keep walking. But he kept him a dead body for 5 days in the cell, and he said he was trying to open up portals. He was in there, and he killed his own sister, sexually assaulted her, and then and he said that he I didn't know he was in there for that. But anyways, after it came out, he said you have to kill something you love because it's not a sacrifice unless you don't love it. And this is just the kind of people out there. But he kept that guy's body in there and he kept bringing him down to the pentagram. And he said he was trying to open up portals. Yeah, and it was a weird story. Like that dude was in a couple of movies. He was in TV shows, and that's one of the weirdest people too that I've ever met. And that was just some truly evil shit.
Oh yeah.
You
But
know,
what you said about killing somebody you love, that makes me think of like the skinwalkers. They say that's part of the ritual. You have to unalive, a family member, somebody that you care about. I've had heard people make the connection between skinwalkers and like Wendigos. That
yeah,
the skinwalkers, you do the ritual, you do everything by the T, whereas when it comes to like Wendigos, maybe it's more of a possession, since you possibly could have killed somebody out of desperation, like cannibalism, like the Donner Party kind of thing.
mm,
Um, so you only do part of the ritual in the sense that you do the sacrifice, and so you could get possessed by this dark entity, and that could be like the Wendigo lore. Um, but yeah, that's a pretty dark story.
that's one of the darkest ones. And I, I never, you know, I listen to heavy metal and stuff, and that was about as closest to people I ever seen, like, drawing pentagrams and being satanic, but they never were really into it. He's the first person I met and heard and what they believe in. He said his whole soul purpose was to open up portals to do the devil's bidding so he could, be one of his minions or something like that. But he said it. He had to do something. Blood, it's the blood, sugar, sex, magic, type of ritual. So there was the sexual assault part on his sister. Plus, he killed her and he offered her to Satan. And he was like, yeah, if you just kill somebody that you don't love, well, that's not a sacrifice. That's just murder. He goes, I did that. And he was very serious. And it was just weird how they put this little small Christian guy in there too, because everybody knows, he was preaching and stuff, walking around. He was like a born again Christian with the most satanic dude in that prison block, and then kept his body for 5 days. He tried to pull his eyes out, gouge him. It was gross. There was blood. He was taking his blood and I guess doing rituals with it, putting it in the pentagram, and then I think by day 5, the body was smelling. I think he told the guards. I can't remember, but that that's some wild shit. I've met some very evil people that have like killed people, and you kind of find out why, and you're just like, ah, there's evil in this world, and if it's where else can it manifest? Washington State, there's a lot of satan. I don't know if it's got to do with the rain and it's always depressing, but I lived there for a while when I was like 20. And I met a lot of people that said they were Satanists up there, or witches, or just, atheists, more than anywhere else. I didn't see any of that in Texas or California, but Washington, I don't know.
Maybe it's like cause and effect. People started going there, and it just attracts more people. Um, I don't know how much I truly believe in like ley lines, but I think there's something there. Maybe they are just hotspots of areas like was it the low desert in California, Joshua Tree, the Mojave Desert. That's a huge occult things too.
Yeah. Have you ever been out to Salton Seas?
I've drove past it. I do want to maybe go out and explore one of these days.
You should do it and maybe interview some people or whatever. I'm sure they would. It's a trip out there. It's
Yeah,
their
I
own.
saw a short clip about it, how basically just how it kind of popped up and the sea formed, but now as it's shrinking, a lot of the chemicals from the aggregation dries up, and then when the wind blows, it becomes an environmental hazard. But yeah, it seems like that could be a high area of people hiding out. I've been up to Envoy, Joshua Tree and Envoy. I do want to go back and try and talk to some people. There's some high strangeness up there.
Yeah. Um, but I don't know. I mean, the, that's about, as far as it goes, just seeing stuff, being on the road. And I'm sure truck drivers have seen a lot or seen it all. I listen to Coast all the time, so I've heard some people call in and they were truck drivers, and it just makes sense, going through these places. And there is a government base up there by Skinwalker Ranch, which would kind of explain stuff because I've met other drivers that told me they've seen women weeping on the side of the road. I guess they try to get people to stop.
Yeah, kind of like the whole white woman archetype.
I've heard that. I've met other drivers that have told me about that. And this guy said, "Oh, hell no." I kept going. He said he rolled his window down. Oh, this is one story I do have. This happened to me in Nevada. And because my wife, she knew I was coming on here. She goes, "Tell them about this," because she thinks it's the weirdest story. Um, if you've been through all of Nevada, it's a very barren state. Besides Vegas and Reno, there's not a lot. There's like 100. There's that highway where you could go 100 miles without a gas station. It's called the loneliest highway in America.
Hmm.
You can take it up straight up to like Oregon or Washington. Um, Nevada is a very big state, and if you don't get fuel or whatever, you won't see a store for like 100 miles. It's weird. You'll drive and you'll see like what do they call it? A brothel. That's about it. You'll see a like shitty little casino, a brothel, at a gas station, and then you could go for another 100 miles and not see anything. It's weird. But I was coming up through Pa Rump, Nevada. I forgot where I was going. I think to Oregon, and it was a stretch of highway where I had fuel, and when I was getting on it, there was a truck. It was crashed on the side of the road. I was turning, so I turned onto the highway, and I can't remember, but it was somewhere like maybe it was Paw Rump. All I know is a stretch of highway, and there was really nothing. There was no town, maybe close by, maybe 10, 15 miles. But there was a truck, smashed windshield, lights on, hazard light or the headlights, blood all on it. So I just kind of maybe thought deer, animal. Maybe they got a bad wreck. I was going to stop. So I
Hmm.
started slowing down on the side of it because I want to see if these people are all right. I didn't see anybody. All I seen was a smashed windshield, and I did see blood, and the doors open. And I was going to stop coming down about 5 miles an hour. And a guy just came out on the side of the driver's side, and he was crouched down. And I seen him come up, and he ran me full force, had something in his hands, and he was trying. It freaked me out because most of the time, don't you think if you have like an emergency or something, you'd be like, "Help, help." You would do that. He had like a knife in his hand and he came running at me. I locked my doors and just kept driving. The truck moves pretty slowly, so you got to keep
Hmm.
going. He wasn't yelling anything, and he wasn't asking for help, and he was trying to open my handle. So I kept driving. I got to about, and I was loaded, so I was in a tanker at the time. I got maybe 10 miles an hour. He stayed up with me. When my trailer passed him, he got on the other side because it takes a while to get up to like 20 miles an hour or whatever. By the time I was at 20 miles an hour, he was running along the side of me, not yelling, not saying nothing, had a determined look in his face, had that, and I'm pretty sure it was a knife. He had something in his hand because I seen him holding it. It caught me off guard. So weird. I was like, most of the time, if he would have yelled and said help, I would have just stayed stopped and like, try to help. I drove, and he kept chasing me. And even after I got up to 30 and I had passed him, he was running. He wasn't waving his hands or anything. And I could not get any service. So I tried calling. I tried calling for a while. It wasn't until like 75 miles down the road before I finally called and told him where that area was. The dispatcher said, "Oh, maybe someone hit a deer." It was a weird thing because I don't know what happened. I'm not going to stop for anybody running out like that. Maybe he was in shock, but that one really scared me because if you ever seen Terminator 2 when he's running and he's up to speed with
Yeah.
a cop car and he had that look in his face, that's what this guy had. And I just think like if it was an accident or you needed help, you would have been like help, help, jumping. He was crouched down and just took off running when I stopped. So I never found out because there was no town. There was no like I was looking up in the ads and the newspapers like did something happen out there? But this country is so big. People don't realize I've been over the whole 48 states. There's places you could get lost and buried, or you could get lost in the woods, and you would think like, well, how could a Bigfoot live out there? Somebody would have seen it. No, these forests are. I mean, they're huge. I've driven for so long without even seeing a person before. Through the West and different parts of the states, Nevada. I've driven out there for hours, not even seen a car, just driving for about an hour straight without even seeing anybody. So I don't know. Or
Yeah, like I said, I made a trip to Central Texas. You can go from El Paso to Central, and that's a whole day's drive. That's only half of Texas.
yeah, half of Texas. I drove Texas all the time. You fly around Texas if you want to get. People think like, oh, I'll just drive to Dallas from Houston. Oh no, it's like 10 hours.
Hmm. So yeah, the country is definitely a lot bigger than people realize. There's one podcast called The Cryptids of the Corn. They talk about all kinds of cryptids. Um, but one of the guys used to go out and do like studies trying to find, um, certain fish or things in these rivers because companies wanted to know. Um, but anyways, he had talked to somebody he worked with, and he crunched the numbers. If you base it kind of like a black bear, how much space they would need, how much food, they could be anywhere between like 12 and 16,000 Bigfoots out there.
But we're at mostly in like dense forests because I've heard of there's a east what's it called? There's a East Texas Bigfoot. I've heard coast to coast. A woman called up. Texas doesn't really have too many forests or places for a Bigfoot to go. Maybe Austin a little bit or over
Hmm.
by there. But it's flat and barren kind of Texas. There's no mountains, so I'm wondering, are they concentrated? They're mostly in the Northwest. When I hear about Bigfoots, except for the Mogollon monster, but you barely hear about that. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Well, for
Uh,
me, it's Pacific Northwest, the Ohio region right there, and then like Appalachia. There's a lot of stories out there. I know there's a triangle people call like the Dogman Triangle of Texas. I think it's like Austin to San Antonio to some other state. It's kind of like a general area, but that's why people think maybe they migrate. People see them going through certain states because they're migrating. They come down from the winter and then they go back up for the summer. So, I mean, who knows?
yeah. So I used to always think those people were just full of shit. But then there
Mhm.
were so many people. And there's people I met that just seemed credible. And I just don't know. I start thinking, do they manifest in their head because they believe in it so much? Just like those people I met on that Bigfoot, the tour bus. It was so hokey to me because it was a small, the little yellow buses, but it was painted.
Hmm.
It was painted. They had Bigfoots on it, and it was like a tour. But the guy was telling me how there's different kinds. You know how you said the Wendigo? There's different names for different Bigfoots. You know about that? Like
Yeah, it depends on
different
the area.
kinds.
Like I think Ohio, it's the Grassman. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily Bigfoot, but I think the Ozark Howler kind of describes a Bigfoot, or it could be something else. Maybe I'm misremembering. And then like Florida, there's talks of like skunk apes and stuff down in there.
What what about the cryptid people though? Can you tell me anything about that? Like I'm just starting to learn about. There's the white man. There's the gray man. There's the dark. What's the guy with the hat?
Oh, yeah, the Hat
And then
Man, sleep paralysis.
yes, Slender Man.
Well, I think
And
Slenderman was an internet thing that was completely made up, but some
oh
people have brought up like, do you know what a tulpa is?
no,
That's an interesting concept because it's basically if enough people believe it's real, like you said, could it just manifest and become reality? Could we bring it into existing by just believing it exists. So could you make Slender Man real if enough people believe is a interesting debate with Topals.
What about the Smiling Man?
I don't know, because there's so many things you could go down. Is it demonic? Is it interdimensional? I think was it Indri Cold, I think is
There's a
described
name.
like that. Huh?
Oh, I thought you said his name. I thought there was a name for a Smiling Man.
Yeah, I think it was, if I'm remembering, it's Indrid Cold, Occult. I think some people tie him in with like the extraterrestrials, Men in Black kind of thing. So he's like always smiling and it's very off-putting, but he's really nice or something. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Is there any other like? Do you ever listen to Tinfoil Hat podcast or anything with Sam Tripoli?
I've heard a
He-
few, not a lot. He actually introduced me to Tony Moko, who does the confessionals, because he was on talking about a guy he had in his show that was out in Joshua Tree. Really strange party out there, interdimensional things, um, possible occult origins. But yeah, I've seen a few. Um, there was that one he talked about like Elvis and some of the real things about him. He seemed kind of like a magical dude.
well, I mean, I believe in the cult, and I believe that too. Like people, I don't know if you're led to believe that Jeffrey Epstein and all this stuff, you would think that our government is ran by a bunch of satanic pedophiles.
Oh,
That's kind of what I've gotten the last 10 years from listening to Alex Jones and different people. And then you look into it because it sounds crazy, but it seems pretty true. All these people are very into the occult. Aleister Crowley, and it's just, for years, I never thought about that, but so many people in high places of government and stuff like that, they believe in this shit.
yeah, I have ADD, so it kept popping in and out. Yeah, that was something I meant to bring up too. Was it the Frida Rabbit podcast with Joel Thomas? I had him on not that
Yes, I
long
watched. That's
ago.
the one I watched.
Yeah, he has an ongoing series talking about Crowley maybe being like a double agent or triple agent. His story is really strange, but yeah, I think World War II was much more of an occult kind of a war. And then when you look into like was it Paperclip bringing the scientists over for NASA?
Yeah.
They definitely could have gone in that way. And then I always forget his name and a book, but he tried to write a book about Aleister Crowley. The MI6 said they had a file on Crowley, nothing in it. He called the FBI, CIA. They said no comment. And then when you look into like Jack Parsley, who was big into the occult with Crowley, he was
Jack
friends with
Parsons.
yeah, Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
He was friends with N. Ron Hubbard. He was part of Manhattan Project, I think. So
They started
I
NASA,
definitely,
didn't they?
huh?
Weren't they part of starting NASA?
Well, I think Jack Parsons was big into rocketry, so I think he helped. But there was definitely a lot of like occult Nazi sciences in NASA, for sure.
Well, what's the main one? That one Nazi. He was buried in his tombstone. He had a Psalms on there about the
Um,
uh, the real famous one. Damn it.
I'll say W, but I might not be right. I think Von Braun.
Yeah, von Braun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like you said, L. Ron Hubbard, a guy who made Scientology. Jack Parsons. He was a Satanist. Jack Parsons, right? Yeah, like you said, he was
I don't know
Crowleyite.
if it was full on Satanist, but he definitely dabbled in the occult. He was somebody that wanted to see results, do certain things to make certain things happen, just to see if he could.
Yeah. The problem too, I mean, I love these podcasts. I started watching yours. I watched like tinfoil. You go down these rabbit holes, and there is a lot of stuff to it. There's just they're not just all coincidences. And there's paper trails too of all these people. The Aleister Crowley and all that stuff is true. But I mean, I started listening to it for so long, and I just start thinking like, oh, damn, where are we as humanity? You know?
Mhm.
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry,
Did I freeze on your end?
I didn't know. I something came up.
No, no, yeah, it's still good on my end too. Did you have any final thoughts, comments? You can maybe try and wrap up here in a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry if my story was boring or anything. Like I
No, I
told, I
mean
like,
a lot of them was fascinating. That's cool that you actually got out there to Area 51. So like I said, me and my buddy we want to go out there, see how close we can get, see what we can film, see. Because it's not just like UFOs. I've heard some people talk about like certain cryptids being out near the base. There was was it the forest fire recently that was out there?
yeah, you definitely should too, because you're in Arizona too. It's not
I
far.
think last time I looked it up, yeah, it's like 6, 7 hour drive.
Yeah, enjoy your time. Go up there. I mean, you definitely can. You can look it up on a map and find the place. It's not really on a map. It's weird. You could find it where it's at and the area surrounding it.
Yeah, because you
But
can find Groom Lake, and like I said, Rachel, Nevada is fairly close by Groom Lake. So it's kind of in that area.
there's a little town with a hotel too nearby.
Yeah,
Not too
I think that's
far. Just pretty.
Rachel. I think it's the was it like the Ailey Inn Hotel or something?
Yeah, I've been by there. Yeah, yeah. They really feed off of all that stuff. There's like stores, alien
Yeah, why
jerky.
not? Yeah, you can make a buck. Same with Roswell. I've been down there. They have a lot of shops with like alien stuff.
Yeah, I used to deliver stuff up to Roswell too. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, why not? You make a buck off of it. But that's as far as I can tell you. The stuff that I've seen, nothing too crazy. But
Yeah, same here. Me and my buddy, we just started going out and trying to explore stuff, so I haven't really seen much on the road. There was one night I did go spend near, was it Stardust Ranch in Buckeye? Um, I didn't really,
heard of it?
huh?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't go on the property, but I was kind of parked near on the road. Only strange thing that happened is I could have swore I heard like a crunch of the gravel near me, like somebody walked up, but there was nobody nearby. I can't explain that other than I may have heard something. But yeah, I definitely want to get out and go do more adventuring, try and see things.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. is big. It's a big, beautiful country. I'm glad I have got to see the 48 states, and I would like to do it again before I die one day. Go out in an RV and check it out because I saw some really nice stuff out there. And but the stuff that you're talking about, I would like that too. I would like to check out Skinwalker. I would like to check out what you were talking about, Joshua Tree, a little bit more. Uh, Even Payson, that Mago Yan thing. I have not got to talk to anybody about that. I just recently found out that like a year ago or something. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
they
for
have
me,
a
it's been fairly recent because I just look up stories, and that was something that popped up. Because for me, it's easy just to start in the state I live in, so I was just been looking up things here that I can go check out. That was something that popped up. There are Dogman stories up in the same kind of mountains. They say kind of near like Snowflake and Sholo, like we were talking about with Travis Walker, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
you have the
Apache
Apache
National.
reservations over there too. Apache Junction is another place of high strangeness, I've heard.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of that's kind of like by Lost Dutchman State Park and all that too.
Yeah, over
Apache
by the
Junction.
supernatural, no,
Yeah,
Superstition Mountains. That's another
yeah,
big area of strangeness.
yeah. I go hiking up there a lot. It's nice. No, that's all I have, man. I don't I don't want to bore you.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a good conversation because my point of view is we may not, unlock the secrets on the universe, but I like to think as long as I can be kind of like a middleman, like you said, be that kind of gateway to other people who have bigger, more in-depth conversations. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, keep searching. Yeah, they're definitely
Mhm.
out there. Maybe someone will see this and reach out to you too, you know?
I hope, because I try to do like Reddit and try and find people who may have stories. There are subreddits about like high strangeness, cryptids, occult.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I had fun though.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for coming on. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, Alex. Thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
Thank you.